Erebus watches have just released their second watch, a Gara model called the Ascent, with 12 dial options. Famous YouTuber Jody of Just One More Watch and his business partner Steven are the faces behind the brand, and I must say that this release impresses. Not only by the sheer amount of options you have, but also by the quality of what's on offer, and more importantly, by its value. The watch pre-order will close on the 20th of May with a promise delivered in September, so hurry up if you want to order one. But don't worry, I'm sure that if they are successful, and if the hype is anything to go by, they will be. Many more watches of these will be coming out. Now, I'm a big fan of Jody's channel and have been for many years. I even included Just One More Watch on my favorite list of channels last year. So when he asked me to review the Ascent, I was beyond thrilled, especially because I am by far the smallest YouTuber to do so, and I really wasn't expecting it. And by the way, if after watching the video you enjoyed, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to help the little guy. But does this mean that I will shower the watch with praise by obligation? Absolutely not. As usual, I will be bringing you an uncompromising review with positives and negatives. And just so we are clear, even though I put the paper notion text, I am not getting any type of financial compensation or commission for this review, but I will be sent the production unit of my choice. And therefore, I am already asking myself the same excruciating question that's nagging all of you: which of all these options I am actually going to get? Before we talk about anything objective like dimensions and specifications, I wanted to talk to you about something very important: first impressions. Because if you decide to go for one of these watches, it's right when you open the box and pick up the watch for the first time that you will fall in love with it or not. I have reviewed close to 200 watches on the channel, but when I unboxed these, I was truly impressed. I even uttered an audible wow. Everything here really oozes quality, from the beautiful dials to the shiny markers to the mostly polished elements of the case. Once you pick up the watch and fiddle with the crown and the setting of the date, the quality impression is confirmed. Everything is precise and the tactile feeling is wonderful. So when I say that at first glance this watch looks and feels like it should cost several times its price, I'm not employing an overused cliche from watch reviewers. As for the inspiration behind the aesthetic of the watch, I can see a lot of Grand Seiko here, especially on the case shape and on the usage of polished and brushed surfaces. There's also quite a lot of Omega Aquaterra in here, especially on the indices and to a certain extent on the hands minus the arrows. But although Erebus have taken the best design elements from the big boys, there is no direct homage here. Everything has its own identity. Well, that's all for the first impression. Let's go back to earth with the specs of the watch. First, let's talk about what all the watches share in common: the dimensions, the case, and the movement. I measured the case at 38.7mm in diameter by 11.1mm in height and 44.7 in lug to lug and 20mm in lug width. So it wears really well in small, medium, and I would say even in large sized wrists, depending on the bracelet options you are going for. Speaking of which, you'll have a choice of what they have called O or J metallic bracelet. You of course guessed the reference. The bracelet slim from 20mm at the case to only 16mm at the clasp, scoring easy points for elegance on that respect. With its male endlings, the O bracelet will wear better on bigger wrists, although even on a medium-sized wrist it hugs very well. For reference, my wrist is 17cm in diameter. Therefore my choice goes for the J, with its 5 independent links and much more flexibility. I would say it looks more elegant on any of the dials that I have tested. However, both bracelets offer a ton of functionality with quick release springs, which is extremely convenient and impressive to see at this price point, and a great quality on-the-fly adjustment, the same that is used by the Saint Martin SN0116 that I reviewed lately. Knowing that Jody is a big fan of Saint Martin watches, I can see how he would like to have this excellent clasp on his watch. Another element the watches share is the case, and you clearly see the Grand Seiko inspiration here, notably from the SBGH collection and more broadly from the 62GS Grand Seiko style cases. However, here too they have given it its own twist with a broader brushed flat surface on the top of the lugs and a thin brushed seam bisecting the side of the watch. This seam is also the most salient point of the case and gives it a kind of angular cushion shape, if that makes any sense. Brushing and polishing are top notch, even under super macro shots. The separation between finishings is as crisp as a bag of fresh lace. The last element that all versions share in common is the movement. The high beat Miyota 9015 is used here, and that allows for the slimness of the watch. However, you don't see it here because sadly enough the caseback is not see-through. Well, you might not see it, but you certainly feel it and hear it when you move your wrist, which is charming to some, but intolerable to others. Performance-wise, we've got two champs coming in within the 2 seconds per day, and one that barely meets the 1915 standard at -9. These are review units that have crossed many borders and therefore have been handled pretty roughly during transport, I suppose. So in the end, this is a great choice at the price point, and I won't complain by the usage of these Miyota movements. You roughly have 4 types of dials, proposed each in 2 or 3 different colors. First of all, there's the enamel dials, coming in at €329. They are considered the base models, but that doesn't mean that they lack complexity or refinement, as you have seen from the macros I have shown you. There's a white and blue enamel that I haven't seen, but if the black is anything to go by, they will be breathtaking as well. And looking at the other dials, they do seem like the most sensible choice. The next dial type that I have to show you is the very impressive Helix. As the name indicates, there is a helix pattern on the dial, very reminiscent of the delicious Grand Seiko SPGH 267. But here, Erebus logo is engraved on one strand of the shape out of 2, which makes it less busy than the Grand Seiko. There's this blue one that was sent to me, but there's also a fairly inoffensive black and a purple, which looks very interesting, but perhaps a bit too much. And then there's mineral dials, one made of aventurine that I got sent that I have with me, and one made of malachite. At least on the photos, I cannot say that I'm a big fan of the malachite, but the aventurine is something very special. No wonder why it's the best selling up to now. Aventurine is a crystal obtained when mixing glass with melted copper, and the result is very impressive, especially when it's high quality aventurine like the one used here. The night sky effect is definitely there for all to see, and when you move the watch under the light is a real light spectacle. Finally, there's the Fume Sunburst dials, and from the videos that I have seen of the man himself, they look really shiny, maybe a bit too much for some tastes. The tones are orange, which is the shiniest, green and purple. Regardless of their shape or material, all have the same applied Erebus logo at 12 with the brand printed right underneath. At the bottom of the dial, the model Ascent is printed in a very small italic font reminiscent of the famous SRP 033. And right underneath, 1080M is equally printed in a more classic font. And under all these, the date window sits on its stainless steel frame at 6, as not to break the symmetry of the dial. The trapezoid indices are applied and sit proud of the dial. Again, the Grand Seiko meets Aquaterra is evident here, and that's a good thing because they're mixing the shape and nice bevels of some Grand Seiko models with the Lume field indices of the Aquaterra. They are beautifully faceted on all sides, although when you use a super macro lens, you can see some little imperfections and fluff here and there. Nothing that you can see under the naked eye or even under a normal loop, but it is necessary to state. You're not getting Grand Seiko quality here, but you are getting fairly close. Regarding the hands, it's exactly the same story as with the indices, classy and elegantly beveled pieces that suffer a bit on super macro. Note that may be because we are using review units here, and I'm curious to apply the same scrutiny to my production unit and see if these issues have been been taken care of. All dials are lit up by the same BGW9 Lume. I put it against some serious competition, a latest gen Saint Martin packed full of the same BGW9 and a representative of the old guard, which was used as a golden standard for Lume a few years ago, the Seiko SKX. And as you can see, as time progresses, the Erebus does very well for itself, even edging the Seiko and coming just slightly short of the Saint Martin, mostly because of a matter of surface area of application. But all in all, the Lume impresses and would feel at home on a good dive watch. Covering all these, you've got a double dome sapphire crystal with clear anti-reflective coating that is very effective. Let's jump to the positives and negatives. The major positive, and I'm sure you will agree, if you get the watch, it feels like a luxury product. It might not have the in-house Swiss or German movements, but the quality, the heft, the manipulation of the crown, the refinements on the bracelet, this is really as good as it gets under $1,000, dare I say under $3,000 if you don't take the movement into account. Then there's most of the specs. Everything is top notch here for the price point. Beautifully machined dials, high quality sapphire crystal, amazing lume, a decent high beat movement, and a bracelet that packs so much functionality as to put most luxury brands to shame. And of course, there's the quality of the dials. So much could have gone wrong here, as all the dial colors and materials used was extremely ambitious, but every one of them seems to be executed to the highest possible standard at this price point. And that is really impressive from a manufacturing and even a project management point of view. Hats off to Jody and Steven on this point. I am sure that many long hours might have been spent on the design, refinement, producing and quality control. And then there's the finishing of the case, which is superb for the price point. I would say on par with what Saint Martin does. Now let's flip the coin. You might have noticed that I have not talked about something that you were sure I was going to talk about on the positives, and that is value. And I did that on purpose because that helps me transition to the negatives. Let's get clear, value is not a negative per se here, and I actually believe that the watch is great value, but it's just a manner that you go about it. When you check the watch on the website, you feel like you're getting a tremendous deal between 330 and 370 euros. Let's be clear, at that price it is a steal. But then you have to factor in the price of shipping, which to my home in France is already 33 euros. And then on top of that, you'll have to pay import duties and courier fees, which DHL will generously apply. It will depend on your region, of course, but you can end up with a watch that's over 30% more expensive than the price you thought you were going to pay when you put it in your cart. And that leaves a bit of a bitter taste, regardless of the actual deal that you're getting, which is, let me repeat it, very good in any case. And even though I perfectly understand that most of this is not under the control of the brand, I believe that they should have at least factored in the price of shipping on the overall price as to mitigate the small disappointment. Then regarding the negative points on the watch itself, as I said, the markers and hands are top notch to the naked eye and even to normal macro lenses, but suffer a bit when you go crazy with zoom and you discover some scuffs and some dust particles here and there. Once again, it might be just review models, and once again I'm keen to apply the same scrutiny to my production model. And then there's the caseback. Although there's nothing wrong with this caseback, I would have really preferred a display caseback to look at the fairly well decorated 1915. And finally, there's just a huge, overwhelming amount of choice you have between all the colors and all the bracelet options. And I really haven't talked about the packs you can get with these ones, which adds almost an infinity of options to the mix. Give people some choice, they will feel empowered. Give them too much choice and they will feel lost. 4 dial options would have been enough 12 is just too much. After this quite long list of negative points, let me tell you that the truth is that I am really excited of getting my own version of this watch, as I have to return the ones that I have, and to really make it my own. That combined with the first wow that I uttered when I received this watch makes it that I have to admit that this watch is something really special. If you want to see another very special watch that comes even less expensive than this one, why not check the review I made of the Saint Martin SN 0116? Because if this is truly the best watch under $500, then that one is the best watch under $250. Thank you very much for making it to the end. Thanks again, and I'll be seeing you very soon on that video. Goodbye.